We're back here with the Insider Magazine and John Alite. John, as we discussed in our previous video, the mentality of the mafioso is very similar to that of a terrorist. Walk us through the mentality of a mafioso and how is alike or not alike to that of a terrorist.
Well, the difference is one's fanaticism, the other is to line their pockets. But they both work off the same methods, which is fear and money laundering from drug sales and buying weapons through drug sales. So you look at a terrorist and you say, what brings them into that life? For the most part, terrorists are misfits that I've run into in different prisons that are not accepted, they're insecure, and they're vulnerable to be brought into an organization like Al Qaeda or ISIS.
Now, they obviously keep replenishing their ranks. The mafia still exists, they keep replenishing the ranks. How do you think the terrorist organizations continuously recruit to their organizations? Obviously, somebody's going to see them. Why?
Well, because they want to fit in. I mean, you could go back to Libya, to Omar Gaddafi. They talk against the West, and all their rhetoric is to downplay everything that we are here, infidels, and we are corrupted by sex and drugs. But meanwhile, when Gaddafi was taken down, if you went into his palace, he had everything that you could think of from the United States, as far as any kind of foods, any kind of comforts, any woman. And some of these terrorists that I was with in prisons got caught with sex tapes. And their excuse is, well, I'm not perfect. But yet, I had one particular terrorist that loved the Mets, and he was from Afghanistan. And I said to him, well, what are you doing in this country if you love Afghanistan so much? Why'd you get involved? And I says, go watch the Mets in Afghanistan, if that's what you're looking to do. But their mentality is so warped that they don't make sense of what they're doing. So you're talking about guys that thinking mechanisms aren't what a normal everyday person is.
Now, this is not a traditional war. If it was, America is probably the strongest traditionally. This is non-traditional. With that being said, what would you do, considering your background, what you know, what would you do is the best way to combat these terrorists moving forward?
Well, listen, aggression has to be with no limits. So, when you're at war, like back in the day when Truman dropped the bomb, his mentality was, if I could save one person from the United States by doing this, I'm going to do that. And it's a hard decision. So somebody has to make that decision. Is it going to be lives in our countries, or is it going to be their lives and some innocent people in their countries? So I think that decision's got to be made, and that's why I go back to Benjamin Netanyahu, because he lost his brother fighting against this. And he understands this better than anybody does. And I think that if we want to combat this and defeat this, that means we have to take no limits and drop those bombs and with efficiency and with regularity.
Now, there's a little bit of Robin Hood stuff going on here. For example, Anonymous, those hackers are waging internet war, if you will, or tech war against the terrorists. And in the past, we've read that the mafia was employed, such as Lucky Luciano or even Greg Scarpa, against the KKK. With that said, do you think the government should actually employ mafioso as well as these hack terrorists, or do you think they can go it alone?
No, I think they can go it alone because of the efficiency of CIA, Mossad, different agencies throughout the world that share information. Putin is an expert with, obviously in the past with KGB. So if they share this information, because it's a battle that every country is fighting, so for once they can share international information, and they could have a coalition that's going to work. And that, if they're sharing that information and they attack with that information on regularity, again, is the key.
Now, this is not a cheap operation. This is expensive. Somebody's funding this. Who do you think profits from this terrorism? They wouldn't do it for no reason. They hide behind religion. But who do you think really profits from this terrorism, in your opinion?
Well, again, it's not. I don't believe it's really a money thing with them. I just think it's an insecurity thing. And, they're recruits. There's the top guys, just like I said about Gaddafi and Libya or Saddam Hussein. They really don't care about their people. They don't care about religion, as they say. they care about their comforts, and they use these people and manipulate their minds, and let's call it what it is, brainwash them. And they get people from the States now that don't fit in or feel they don't fit in, and they recruit them with no promise of any kind of monetary thing. They promise them to feel that they're part of something, and I guess they believe that they're useless otherwise, and this gives them the power to feel like they're something.
Now you dealt with the government. You know the government pretty well. What do you think? Can the government make it so either? And I don't want to say terrorist freaks. I don't think that ever happened. But do you think they can at least limit it to a point where we can feel secure about living in the U.S.?
Well, listen. Everybody's vulnerable to everything: diseases, car accidents, plane accidents. I think you can limit it to a minor. It's like a business being run, a corporation. There's going to be some stealing, but you got to limit it to be almost nil effect, and it's just part of another percentage of a way to die. And if we're vigilant and we stay on top of it, and we don't fear being politically correct, and I think that's the biggest thing with me, is with the states. I believe they care too much to be politically correct these days, instead of coming out and just saying or doing like some of these other countries doing. And that's why, again, whether you agree with a guy like Putin, he's a strong leader. So, if we follow their lead when it comes to this, I think that the United States will be okay.
Now, you are being brought in as a terrorist expert through Protocol. Tell us a little bit what you're working on in terms of Protocol and other books and other ventures that you are working on.
Well, as far as Protocol, I was friendly with an FBI agent, Dave Gentile, that brought me in and thought and of giving me a second chance and highlighted me, and he's been working with me, and I spoke to him about terrorism, some of the terrorists that I was in prison, their mindset. They obviously are experts in that field. His partner's also an expert, Israeli military forces, special force guy. So they understand on their end the mindset. So we discuss from a street perspective and from their perspective how to combat terrorism. And they're training different officers to understand that. And they're also in the private investigation field.
And what are you working on these days?
I'm in the middle of doing 2 books, an international book that will entail some of this stuff about terrorism, some of the countries I went to, how to maneuver with illegal passports as I did, how to combat some of that stuff. I'm involved in several TV shows and a movie that we've been working on in Albania.
Beautiful, John. Always a pleasure. Insider Magazine here with John Alite, discussing the link between Mafia, ISIS, and terrorism. John, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you again.